Hello my friends, today we will take a look at Fujifilm X100V. This is definitely one of the most anticipated cameras of 2020 and I can say that I am personally also very interested. I've had an opportunity to test X100V for a couple of days in Malaga, Spain, and in this video I would like to share my thoughts about the performance and importantly the user experience that you can get from Fujifilm's latest rangefinder. The unit that I've tested has firmware 1.0, so as far as I can tell it is a final version and I haven't noticed any issues. X100V follows the same concept as the predecessors. It is a compact camera with APS-C sensor and 35mm full-frame equivalent fixed lens. X100 line is mainly intended for street photography, but it is also quite versatile all-round usable travel camera. X100V is a fairly compact camera and it weighs 478 grams. As expected, the build quality is top-notch. All of the materials are very high quality, it has some heft to it, it feels very solid and very premium. All of the buttons have good feedback, the doors are well made, and so on. It is one of the best cameras in terms of the build quality that I've ever tested. In my opinion, it is also one of the best looking cameras on the market. I'm a big fan of Fuji's vintage looking cameras, especially the rangefinders, so I definitely like the X100V a lot. It is available in silver and black color. Black color is definitely more understated and therefore more suitable for Suzuki-style street photography. I prefer a more retro look of silver version, so I have ordered X100V in silver color. A significant upgrade over X100F is that X100V is weather sealed apart from the front element of the lens, which can only be weather sealed by using a filter. X100V uses new 23mm f2 Mark II fixed lens. That gives you the same field of view as 35mm lens on full frame. I generally like 35mm lenses, the field of view is still relatively wide, it looks a bit less generic than 28mm lenses, but it is also a bit less versatile. There is also built-in force-stop ND filter, but it can't be used in video for some reason, so I haven't used it at all to be honest. X100F uses 26.1 megapixel backside illuminated APS-C X-Trans sensor. It is the same sensor that I've already tested in X-T3 and X-T30. The dynamic range in real-world situations is great. Even in very difficult uneven light conditions, I was able to recover an impressive amount of information in both highlights and shadows. Just like with X-T3 and X-T30, this sensor gives you a lot of flexibility in editing. ISO performance is also quite impressive. ISO 3200 is quite clean and it is definitely usable for a majority of use cases. Even ISO 6400 looks really good, the noise is visible but the noise pattern is rather pleasant, and even 12800 could be usable in low dynamic range scenes. In combination with f2 lens, I can say that X100V is suitable for low light shooting. The overall amount of detail that this sensor can capture in combination with the new lens is also very impressive. 26.1 megapixels is more than enough even for large prints, and I can say that this lens is sharp enough even for that high pixel density. X-Trans 4 is still my most favorite crop sensor, and here it performs great as well. Fujifilm is known for their colors and film simulations, and that is definitely a strength of X100V. Fuji cameras with X-Trans 4 sensors are some of the most color accurate according to the tests, so the RAWs are very easy to work with. X100V offers 17 film simulations for JPEGs. My most favorite are Classic Chrome and Classic Negative, which was introduced with X Pro 3. The new lens is also one of the main improvements on X100V. The sharpness is very good right from f2, even in the corners, although the contrast is a bit weaker. It improves at f2.8 and f4, the sharpest point is about f5.6, f8 is very similar. The contrast is also excellent from f4. A pleasant surprise for me personally is the rendition of bokeh. Even with busy background, it is very smooth. The shape of so-called bokeh balls is not completely round, but overall, the rendition of bokeh is very nice. The image quality is excellent overall in this regard, and in this category there isn't anything that I can criticize. With X100 line, the user experience is just as important as the output, and the view will not disappoint here either. As I have said, the overall feel of the camera is great. It has shallow but well-shaped grip, so holding the camera is actually quite comfortable. Regarding the controls, of course you have an option to use analog camera style controls with combined shutter speed and ISO dial and aperture ring on the lens. If you prefer the modern way, you can use front and rear command dials. Like on other new Fuji cameras, there is no 4-way pad on X100V. I don't miss it, I use the joystick most of the time anyways, but there is enough space for it, so I would probably prefer having it here. There is one custom button on the top of the camera and a lever on the front side that I use for switching between the optical viewfinder and electronic viewfinder. You can also press both front and rear dials. The user interface on Fujifilm is also pretty good. The main menu is well organized. Unlike on X-T200 that I have tested recently, you can't use the touchscreen in main menu, but I prefer joystick. The quick menu is very good on Fuji cameras and it works well with touchscreen, so I use that a lot. Overall, the controls on X100V are great, they match the vintage feel of the camera and provide very nice user experience. The autofocus is also the same as with X-T3 and X-T30. It is a hybrid system with both phase detection and contrast detection points. It has been improved a lot since the launch of X-T3, and I can say that now it is very close to Sony. For all intended purposes, it works great. The focus acquisition is basically instant, so it definitely won't lose any shots because of the slow autofocus. Face tracking also works very well. There is a lot of options for customizing the autofocus according to the situation. The video autofocus was also significantly improved. There is basically no hunting, and if you set it that way, it can also be very smooth in video. Again, it is very close to newest Sony cameras and you won't see any difference in most cases. There is also a big difference between higher-end X-Trans cameras and lower-end cameras such as X-T200. The autofocus is much better on X-Trans 4 cameras. X100V can shoot very respectable 11 frames per second with continuous autofocus and mechanical shutter, 20 frames per second with electronic shutter, and 30 frames per second with electronic shutter and 1.25 times crop, which is outstanding for this type of camera. In combination with that fast autofocus system, good mechanical controls, and responsive user interface, the whole package is very fast, which is indeed very important for this type of camera. The only downside is small buffer capacity of 17 RAWs and slower clearing due to UHS-1 cards. Regarding the viewfinder, X100V uses hybrid viewfinder, so we can switch between electronic viewfinder and optical rangefinder. Electronic viewfinder uses 3.69 million dot panel with 0.66 time magnification. It is very good EVF, it kind of looks bigger than 0.66 times to me, it is very bright and very sharp, so no complaints. Optical viewfinder or rangefinder is very nice to use as well. It has magnification of 0.52 times. Just like the analog controls, it contributes to user experience, so I appreciate that it is available on X100V and I actually use it a lot. The biggest improvement of the display is that it is a touchscreen and it can also be tilted. That is of course very useful for street photography, low-angle shooting, shooting on a tripod, and so on. The screen is also remarkably thin, so it doesn't add to the size of the camera. This is in my opinion what X Pro 3 screen should have been. The resolution is 1.62 million dots, it is 3-inch panel, very sharp and bright, so no complaints here either. X100V is mainly a stills camera, but it has the same video specs as X-T30, which means that it is a very capable video camera. It can shoot full sensor downsampled 4K video up to 30 frames per second, and that is real 4K DCI. It can also do that at 200 megabits per second. There is recording limit of 10 minutes in 4K and 15 minutes in Full HD. I personally don't shoot longer clips than that, but keep it in mind. The video quality is excellent. It is very sharp, in 4K the amount of details is great. It also has Eterna film simulation, which is great for shooting semi-flat footage and color grading in post, so I only use Eterna for video. X100V doesn't have very advanced features such as 4K 60p or 10-bit internal recording, but this little camera can actually output 10-bit 422 over HDMI, which is again an outstanding feature in this category. It has 2.5mm microphone output jack. Of course 3.5mm would be better, but at this size any mic input is great. The main limitation for video use will probably be the lack of image stabilization. There is no sensor or lens stabilization, so we will either have to use tripod or a gimbal or stabilize the footage in post. Digital stabilization would be very useful, so that is one of very few complaints that I have about the X100V. X100V uses the same 1260 mAh battery as the X-T3. It is rated for 350 shots or 55 minutes of video, which is on par with other cameras in this category. It can be charged through USB-C even while you are using it, which is great. SD card slot is placed next to the battery, which is okay in this type of camera. There is only one slot of course, which is also fine, but it is only UHS 1 compatible. I wish it was UHS 2 compatible, but it is not a big deal. Overall, I can say that X100V is a great camera. Fujifilm has been improving X100 line for 9 years, and you can definitely see that. For what it is, it basically doesn't have any weaknesses. The build quality is great, it uses the best APS-C sensor available, and the lens has great sharpness and character. Autofocus system is among the best that I've tested, and the video specs will actually beat most hybrid cameras. The user interface could be more touch-friendly, the buffer is not great, and I would appreciate UHS 2 card slot. Digital stabilization and option to use ND filter in video would be nice additions in future firmware updates. The next step for X100 line could also be image stabilization. X100 line puts equal emphasis on both results and shooting experience, and I can say that the V delivers on both fronts. Basically the only reason not to buy one could be that 35mm equivalent lens might not fit your needs. Personally, I would prefer 28mm lens, but the rest of the camera is so great that I've ordered one anyway, so I can highly recommend it. So that's it for this video, thank you for watching, I hope that you liked this video and that you found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share opinion, please do so in the comment section, and see you next time.